from the Cyber Hub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the Cyber Hub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
We are live, folks. It's Monday, August 2nd, 2021. You think after an hour in Clubhouse, I'd be ready to go. But like always, we're human and we're bound to just be a little tiny bit. Happy Monday, everyone. Here we go. Today's practitioner brief is a biggie. A lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk about this Android banking Trojan that's impacting the accessibility services on Android devices. We'll talk about PwnedPiper impacting hospitals, a SolarWinds update, and a critical one at that, and some news about China. And on Friday, I'll probably have some more stuff going on about China, and we'll get to that as well, folks. Today's show is brought to you by KnowBe4 and Ativo Networks. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Please subscribe to the Cyber Hub podcast if this is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the Practitioner Brief, a 10 to 15-minute insight into the latest cybersecurity threats, vulnerabilities, and really some mitigation aspect of it as well. We're not just talking about what the story means, but also what can we do in our day-to-day to take care of these threats. Good morning to Daryl joining us on YouTube. Good morning to Heather starting her week off right. Thank you. Mr. McQuiggan, thank you, and happy Monday to you as well. Morning to Anthony, and good morning to David. I hope you guys are ready for the traditional cup of coffee. My double espresso has been sitting here for about 5 minutes, so I know it's ready to be drunk. So with that being said, coffee cup cheers, folks, or chai cup cheers if tea is your thing. Cheers, everyone. Let's get right into what's going on today from a cyber risk impact and mitigation perspective. So a newly discovered Android banking Trojan relies on screen recording and key logging instead of HTML overlays. That's how it's capturing login credentials, according to folks over at Threat Fabric. They've dubbed it Vulture, and it was identified in March of this year. The malware gains full visibility into a victim device through the use of a VNC, which stands for a virtual network computing. And that comes from an implementation from Alpha VNC, which has remote access to the VNC server on the devices provided to ngrok, which leverages secure tunnels to expose to the internet endpoints located behind NATs and firewalls. Now, this is important because if you understand the makeup of a banking application and the security that's inside of them, you'll start to understand the sophistication behind this specific Trojan. So predominantly because if you look up here, it's not using HTML overlays, meaning you can't recognize, it's not communicating with a command and control server from a traditional aspect of HTML. It's rather recording a screen and key logging and projecting that throughout the process. So the malware abuses the accessibility services to log all the keys that a user presses on the screen, as well as to prevent the victim from deleting the malware through manual uninstall. When the user enters the app's details screen in settings, the malware auto-clicks and the back button to bring the user back to the main screen. Vultur targets various banking applications, mainly focusing on users in Australia, Italy, and Spain. There's been some victims in Netherlands and the UK as well. But to a lesser degree, the malware is also very interested in harvesting crypto wallet credentials and keeps a close watch on social media applications as well. A very, very interesting malware to begin with, and one where if you know people who are on Android for whatever reason, have a conversation with them, double check the app. All of our stories, by the way, and all the links are in the show notes, so you can go and check those out. Coffee cup cheers to Mr. McQuiggan, and smoothie cheers for Heather. Good morning to Matt Lee, who's joining us. Thank you for being here. We'll move to another story from my friends over at Armis. So this one is a critical bug that can impact major hospitals in North America called PwnedPiper. The pneumatic tube system stations used in thousands of hospitals globally are vulnerable to a set of 9 critical security issues collectively referred to as PwnedPiper. PTS solutions are part of a hospital's critical infrastructure, as they are used to quickly deliver items like blood, tissue, lab samples, or medication to where they're needed. The flaw are in some of the Swiss Log's translogic pneumatic tube systems, an automated material transport solution for carrying medical items across longer distances in medium to large hospitals. According to the maker of the translogic PTS is present in more than 2,300 hospitals in North America, and more than 3,000 units worldwide benefit from 24/7 support. According to Armis, an unauthenticated attacker could gain full control over some translogic PTS stations connected to the internet and then take over the entire PTS network of a target hospital. Specifically, 9 critical vulnerabilities in the firmware powering the Nexus control panel for managing all current models of the translogic PTS stations. This is impacting everything from the oldest to the newest, folks. You don't see a lot of these vulnerabilities. Typically, they're version controlled, not in this one. While not all the issues could be exploited by a remote attacker, their severity level remains high, given a PTS role in a hospital, which is significant. The security issues are not, according to Jenny McQuaid, who's the Chief Privacy Officer for Swisslog Healthcare, she says security issues are not present unless a mix of variables exists. Okay. When investigating the code powering the translogic PTS, Armis found the following vulnerabilities: CV 2021-37163, 37167, 37166, all impacting some level or not of the application. Again, 9 different vulnerabilities were discovered in this one. If you work in healthcare and you use this system, you may want to take a look at some of these defensive steps. 1, block any use of the Telnet port 23 on the translogic PTS stations. Deploy access control lists in which translogic PTS components are only allowed to communicate with the translogic central server, and use the following snort IDS rule to detect exploitation attempts of CVE 2021-37161, 37162, and 37165. And you can use the following snort IDS rule to detect exploitation attempts of CVE 2021-37164. Barak Haddad and Ben Siri are credited with the research. Job well done. So we'll get to, give me just a second here. We've got a really good comment. So sounds like she's trying to minimize the severity. Yes, most companies do. Plus, she's the Chief Privacy Officer, so not exactly the right person to deal with this. And Matt says, so basic controls. Yes, basic, but not all basic is basic, Matt. You know that. And I know that not everything that's basic is actually basic to begin with. The fundamentals are always the hardest for most people to take care of. We've got 3 more stories to go. I want to kind of power through them, and they're really important. So SolarWinds attackers breached the email of U.S. prosecutors, according to the DOJ, where they had access to emails for over 6 months. The SolarWinds breach, which happened under the watch of Chris Krebs over at CISA, impacted the FBI, CISA, ODNI, and the NSA, who've all blamed it on Russia. Since then, the DOJ said in an updated statement that it's treating the source of the attack as an advanced APT that gained much broader access to the department's Microsoft 365 email system, and then 3% of non-classified emails that initially thought it was accessed. While other districts were impacted to a lesser degree, the APT group gained access to Office 365 email accounts of at least 80% of employees working in the U.S. Attorney's offices located in Eastern, Northern, and Southern and Western District of New York. That's typically where Russian hackers, by the way, and Russian criminals are prosecuted. The department has published a list of 27 districts that had 1 or more employees' Office 365 email accounts compromised in the SolarWinds attacks. These compromised accounts affected the U.S. government and private sector, it added. The department is now responding to this incident as an APT group responsible for the SolarWinds breach, which had access to all email communications and attachments found within the compromised Office 365 account. So mind you, this happened in December, folks. So from December to today, 8-9 months later, we're starting to see the real impact. And I said, we have not yet seen everything to come out of SolarWinds. This is just the tip of the iceberg, the tip of it. SolarWinds is going to haunt us for years to come, folks. Years. We'll move to our next story where a spyware has been found in a Chinese state benefits app. And you go, James, why is that important? And I'll tell you why. The Beijing OnePass is required for foreign companies operating in China. They have to install it on their systems in order to access a digital platforms to manage employees' state benefits. The spyware behavior was discovered last month by Insight Group. That threat research division of Recorded Future, which analyzed the copy received from a customer who was forced to install the suspicious system, software on their systems. According to the team analytics, the app contained features that could be considered suspicious for a benefits software application, which are ordinarily found in malware strains, and that includes disabling the security and backup service on the host device, reading data from clipboard, recording screens, capturing and retrieving keystrokes, attempting to read, create, or modify system registry root certificates, check periodically for human interaction with the operating system as the file is run, allow listing domains for ActiveX use, which would allow it to connect to external internet resources, and the ability to auto-run at Windows Startup to ensure persistence. The suspicious app was developed by the Beijing Certificate Authority, a Chinese state-owned company primarily known for its certificate authority business. At the time of writing, it is not unclear if the spyware features were added inside the Beijing OnePass software on purpose or if they were inserted after a compromise. Take your bet, folks. I'll take your bets there. Finally, new Chinese threat group, GhostEmperor, targets governments and telecom firms. This is a new Chinese-speaking threat actor, which is targeting Microsoft Exchange vulnerabilities, looking to compromise high-profile victims, according to our friends over at Kaspersky. Tracked as GhostEmperor, the long-running operation focuses on targets in Southeast Asia and uses a formerly unknown Windows kernel mode rootkit. GhostEmperor, according to Kaspersky, employs a loading scheme that relies on a component of the Cheat Engine open source project, which allows it to bypass the Windows driver signature enforcement mechanism and deploy its rootkit during their investigation into the activity. Kaspersky security researchers also discovered the use of a sophisticated multi-stage malware framework aimed at providing remote control over the attacked servers. So Kaspersky identified the GhostEmperor cluster of activity while investigating various campaigns targeting Exchange servers. We now know that China continues to be on the move to gain more information. Let's get to some comments here before we wrap up. Dan says that with that broad of an email access near certain data mining of email passwords, reset MFA, and lateral movement credential gathering, absolutely. Heather says here, and give me just a moment, we'll get this up here. I'm curious what the fallout will be from the cases going on that were in those emails, whether defense attorneys could use it to their advantage. Going to text my lawyer friend now. Yeah, or think of a Russian threat actor who's been arrested, who's cooperating with prosecutors, who's giving information, who now they know beyond a shadow of a doubt, or someone who he may be tipping them off on moments before this person's supposed to be apprehended, maybe somewhere else in the world. The Russians are able to go out, pull them out. There's a ton of that. They could sell that data to threat actors. They can sell it to Chinese. They can sell it to Iran. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on, and this is going back to our SolarWinds story where Russia breached the Department of Justice. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on there, folks. That's it for our practitioner brief today. I'll be back tomorrow right here at 9 a.m. with a lot more. Until then, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back. See you then, and stay cyber safe, folks. Cheers.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.